All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to I1 Entertainment, Gamers Paradise 2. We are in level 2, almost full swing into the season. Last week's CPU, we are here with Sean. Sean, I'm going to sit back, let you vent. I know there's probably a couple things on your mind you want to just get off at the top of your head. Don't worry about any flow or sequence to this. I have a few questions in my mind, but I'm sure you'll probably probe some as you talk. But I'm gonna let you have at it.
All right. Let me say that I haven't played many games. Like most of the games I've played are mostly been Survivor, right? Like I think I've played five different formats of Survivor games, and of those 5 games, 2 of them were the same game. I just came back and played again. So I don't have much experience currently playing. Like I'm a big nerd who does my own game design, and like I want to prod my own game, hopefully in the future. So I figured I would need some actual game experience if I was going to like set up and play my own game, to be fair. But every time I play a game, I don't know what it is. Somehow I'm a target. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Like there could be a cast of anywhere from 16, which I've been on, all the way up to 28. And somehow there's only like 3 or 4 people who I find a way to talk to, and everyone else just I can't get good vibes with. I don't know what it is that causes it. I don't know what it is that makes it hard to deal with. The drama is just out there. And as a vivid watcher of reality game shows, The Challenge, Survivor, Endurance, Lula Beach, like Love on the Beach, X on the Beach. Like I've watched all that shit.
Throwing it back to Moolah Beach. A lot of people ain't know about Moolah Beach.
Yeah, like that. I go OG with it. Like I literally have been watching this stuff since 2000, and as a huge fan of this, I don't see a lot of representation of people who look like me doing well in these games. So I've always wanted to play to improve the visibility of the Black male in reality game shows. Like it's when I come to think of like brothers who have won reality game shows, I think of like Darrell from The Challenge, Earl Cole from Survivor, Jeremy Collins from Survivor, like Corey from The Challenge, but Corey hasn't even gotten the true W yet. So it's like, sure, we're great personalities to have on shows, but it's like trying to keep us around. It's hard. It's like people don't know how to talk to us. They don't know how to relate to us. They don't know how to connect intergame. And then when I try to have those conversations about real things, and then they embarrass themselves or it goes left, then they're like, oh, I don't really know how to talk to him anymore. It's like, yeah, you don't know how to talk to somebody after you've been checked. Like it happens to me every day. Like you can get checked in the world and still be like, oh, okay, well, let me try a different approach. Is that you don't just stop completely talking to the person altogether because they called you out on something. And it's like something that I've realized in these games, brutal honesty, while refreshing in the real world, people don't want it in these games. But in a game of backstabbing and lying, when someone is being honest with you, people don't know how to take that. So I just had to come on and just vent a little bit of my frustration. I'll ask any questions y'all got. I'm down for that. But I'm just super frustrated right now because I'm like, I don't know what else to do.
Where's the frustration coming from? Okay. Give me a little bit of a landscape, a little bit of context of where this is coming from. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I'm a very straightforward person. Another gamer in on the season, Jackie, is my wife. Okay. We actively do not have any alliances together. We're not like working together per se. And we're trying to put that out in the optics to everyone else so that way we can play our games. Personally, no one has asked me if we were married yet. Like no one has been like, hey, are you married? How many kids do you have? Where'd you go to school? Like, no one has asked me any of that yet. But I have had to like outwardly come out to like 3 or 4 people and been like, yeah, well, I'm playing with my wife, I'm playing together. And they're like, oh yeah, I know Jackie's your wife. I'm like, okay, so if you know, why wouldn't you bring it up? Like, why would you not say anything? Oh, I don't think it really matters. Okay. I've heard like 5 or 6 people say it doesn't really matter that you two are married. But then I'm hearing around the circle chat that the next level that they want to play is sandbox, so that way they can put Jackie and I up on the block together. So I'm like, now I'm a little upset, because if there's something about my gameplay that bothers you, talk to me about it. Why are you being sneaky about it? You don't even know if that's going to be an issue within my game. And it would make more sense to get on a couple side than to split them up. Because if you can get 2 people to like you, that's 2 votes for you to keep you. Why would you want to make us upset and split us apart? I don't understand. So,
okay, I have a question based off of what you're saying right now, right? All right.
Okay.
So you and Jackie entered the casting process together, sort of knowing that, okay, there's a high probability that we're going to be playing this game together, right? And in orgs, pre-game relationships, whether it's like roommates who live in the same house, or friends who play together but live in completely different areas, or like your case, a married couple literally wedlocked with their significant other in the game. So there's all these different types of like quote unquote pre-game relationships, right? And I don't know in your experiences previous to this one, but like, was there ever an instance in your previous games where like certain individuals or like friends were called out and or became a target just based on the fact that they like knew each other, or somebody knew in the game that, oh, person A and person B, I saw them play this game 2 months ago. We got to keep an eye out for that, right?
Yeah.
So like that has the potential to happen, right? And when and if person A and person B, right? If person A and person B don't get ahead of that possible narrative, right? If they don't either, like, they can either try to hide that relationship or get ahead of it, let it be known to people, right? And what I'm trying to say is, like, do you think that possibly when the game started and it'd been like, hey, everybody, what's up? We're in paradise. This is so fun. It's going to be great to get to know y'all. Just so you know, Jackie and I are a married couple. Do you think maybe presenting it as an open form thing night one, so then you got ahead of it and didn't leave room for people to then, because there's a lot of you. There's, other than you and Jackie, there's 15 other people. For 15 other people to then have these conversations, possibly do some investigating, like, or do you, like, any regrets on possibly like not approaching it like that?
So here's why we decided to go about it the way we did. Okay, I've played in another game. I think it was called Survivor Superfans, and there supposedly was a boyfriend and girlfriend couple who was playing on the season that I was playing. People immediately ran to me, hey, this person A and person B, they're actually dating. If you look on their Facebook chat, they're together. And I was like, okay, oh, that's 2 people. Oh, we got a couple in the game. That's kind of interesting. Ooh, that kind of does make them a target. Well, let me see what they have to say about it. So I did my research first. I went on their page. I saw, that they're boyfriend and girlfriend. So I asked the guy first. I'm like, hey, how's it feel playing, with your girl? Everybody's going around saying that this is your girlfriend. Are you cool with that? And he responded with, I don't know why everybody's saying that. She's just throwing that out there. He started to deny it. And I'm like, well, I checked your Facebook page. Everyone else is talking about it. We're bringing it to you, letting you know there's an issue with it. And your response is to deny it. Go sit down. Go ask mom. And it's like, his response was to deny it. I was like, okay, if day one comes around and people actually want to talk and like figure out who I am, they want to get to know me, where you're from, what do you do for a living? Like, if those questions come up, I will gladly talk about it. And if someone happens to walk up and be like, hey, I looked at the names. Are you like married to Jackie? I would be like, yeah, we both play orgs. We figured it would be cool to try and play one together and just see how it goes. No one has done that. So why would I draw a target on my back and draw fire and like make a public announcement if I'm already a real player? You come and have a conversation with me and I'll tell you the information you want to know. Just ask it. I have no reason to lie. But it's like everyone thinks that we're trying to lie by not being blatant and like open about it. But I would ask anybody else, like, who in their right mind goes into a game like this and broadcasts the fact that they're married to someone on the cast? Like, that doesn't make sense to broadcast it, but it makes sense to acknowledge it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I'm following for sure.
So that's where I'm coming from. Like, I have nothing to hide. But if you don't ask me anything, you can't call me a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
are you concerned though that in games like these, perception is essentially reality, right? If
very,
somebody
very true.
if somebody perceives you and Jackie as a married duo and they heard this information not from you, maybe upon their own investigation, maybe through somebody else's mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then their perception is, oh wow, maybe they can perceive whatever they want from that information.
Then I would
Right.
say that person needs to understand how to garner evidence from people and then how to reassess that. Because just because somebody told you something, you're just automatically going to take it as fact without going to confirm it. Like, and I would challenge them to not dissolve into cognitive dissonance straight away. Like, hey, right
I
now,
cannot breathe.
like, here's the thing, just because somebody told you something doesn't automatically make it true, right? You have to go verify that information with your own eyes. So if I walk up and I'm like, hey, this person said X, Y, and Z, if you don't go over and ask that person if they said X, Y, and Z, why are you automatically just going to trust the word of this other person?
I get that. And honestly, I'm the same way. In a perfect world, I'm always like, go fact check. Like when I play games, I'm definitely like
I was a
thinking
training
about fact
instructor for the
checking.
military, right? And it's just
Yeah,
trust but
but
verify.
also, do you consider that not everybody has that reflective ability, that critical thinking? What happens if you're the only one with this critical thinking ability and you're
And
around 14 other people and you're around 14 other people who don't have those tools and skill sets? How do you mitigate it if you're working with?
You have literally just described my everyday life. Like, that's literally my life. So I have to try and figure out a way to get information to people who like unbiasedly are ignorant towards it. And if you bring it to their attention, they will now be offended that you have brought their attention that they were ignorant to something. So it's like, how do you politely let someone know, hey, don't be so closed-minded on things. I need you to open your mind up.
Have you been able to deduce and pinpoint through conversations in these first two levels, the people in the game who have like stronger critical thinking skills compared to the people who are less independent minded?
Right now, I would say Benny, Romeo, possibly Garrett, I feel, have the critical thinking skills to understand what I'm saying. I've tried to have conversations with the other players. I think Papa might be there as well, too. Everyone else, I feel like they're either using their emotions to garner themselves through the game, or once they hear a response from someone, their emotions garner their thinking forward instead of actually thinking about what was said. And that's the other thing. Like, my personality, it comes off very bashful. It's very straightforward. It's very no mess. So people take that as mansplaining. I don't I've always tried to be open and honest with everyone and give people, proper time to answer and to reflect things. And if you don't know something, there's no shame in it. I don't know everything in the world, and I'm completely okay with that. But I try to make sure that the things that I do speak on, I am well versed in, so that way I don't make a fool of myself when I do speak on the topics. So if I were to, like, say, for example, if I'm talking to somebody, right, and they're like, hey, I've never played an org before. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. You've never played anything before. Well, I've played like 5 or 6 games. I know people who've played upwards of 12 to 20. Okay, so that's a lot of experience. I'm just going to drop a little bit of wisdom onto you, just to give you a heads up. This is things to look out for. And then someone turns around and thinks that I'm mansplaining to them or that I'm talking down to them because I'm trying to connect with them. I'm trying to be blunt and honest with them. If
Is
you don't
this
want to
is this a specific example from this game?
It hasn't been shown yet, but I have a feeling that certain conversations I've had with people haven't gone over well, simply because the lack of responses after the fact. Like I said, I'm very straightforward and brash. So I correct people. Because I would hope someone would do the same to me. Like if we're having a conversation, you're like, yeah, so me and the other person were conversating, and I will stop and be like, it's converse. Conversate's not a word, but continue. Like that's how I was raised. So I'm just hoping if I were to ever speak ill facts or to say something wrong, someone would stop and correct me. But that doesn't always go well. And then being a former training instructor, I just have a thing where I'm like, hey, before you go forward saying this quote unquote wrong information, here's the correct information. You might want to know that. Like we're having a conversation. They're like, oh, the guy down there with dreadlocks. And I'll stop them. First off, they're not called dreadlocks. They're called locks. Dread is the negative connotation of it. They called them dreadlocks because they thought that they stunk and they smelled and they were dreadful looking. The correct terminology is locks. And then people are like, oh, okay. And they're like, they shut up. They don't know what to say. I'm like, I wasn't trying to make you a bad person or tell you to stop talking. I was just trying to correct your information. So for whatever reason, that comes off as mansplaining. So it's like having these conversations with people in previous games and in this game. Like once I don't get certain responses back or their entire demeanor changes after the conversation, I'm just like, okay, I lost another one there. Cool.
Do you think that part of, because I get it, like the personality that you're describing, right? And that
and I'm
personality,
not trying to cause damage.
No, I get it. I know, obviously I know you're not coming from a place of malice. You're not coming up from a place of condescension, although at times maybe that could be how it's received, but that's not your responsibility, right? Do you think how Sean would approach and how Sean operates in real life, right? And how Sean approaches and operates in the game, do you think that it benefits you? Do you think that it's something, or like Sean in real life is going to be a version of Sean that is going to win the game? Not saying that you cannot be yourself or you need to be this fake version of Sean, but
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, yeah.
Here's what it is. I guess now that I'm a little bit older, kids, wife, I've been divorced before. I'm on my second marriage. I don't live in the same state I grew up in. Like I've lived a little bit of life where when I was in the military, I did a lot of things to get people to like me. Like a lot of things. Like one of the reasons I joined the military was so that way I can change the viewpoint of the African diaspora living in America. So that way I could be one of those good Black people to not be from the streets. And like I grew up in Philly. Like that's where I grew up. And it wasn't always the best. Like it really wasn't. And because I was into things that weren't quote unquote stereotypical Black things, I always tried to make myself the exception as opposed to the rule. You know, like I tried to stay away from quote unquote Black stereotypes most of my life. And then once I joined the military and I saw that, being Black necessarily, it is my identity, but it's not all of who I am. But most of the world, when they look at me, that's all they see. So I'm like, instead of being the guy who was a speed cuber, instead of being the guy who did parkour, instead of being the guy who did kung fu, I was the Black guy who did parkour. I was the Black guy who studied kung fu. I was the Black guy who watched anime. So I couldn't just be myself. So when I joined the military and I was just trying to get accolades for myself, I noticed that no matter what I did, I was always attached to the African diaspora. I was always attached to that. So I was like, if I'm going to be myself, why should I have to water down myself in order for people to like me? And it was like in the military, I noticed like as long as I didn't bring up that I was Black or that I had any connection to POC communities or relations, I was openly accepted, like openly accepted. Like the second I got off the military in 2014, I started working at Comic Cons. I started going to Sabaten cons and like I started working as a bodyguard for Power Rangers. Like I was in there. I was trying to break into that world and like be that big nerd guy and be in that world. And then 2014 happened and Black Lives Matter started and I was going to school for theater at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of having to quote unquote suppress my identity in order for people to accept me or to take me as I am. Like I relish in other people's cultures because culture is what makes you who you are. So why would I not want to know what other people's cultures are or celebrate my own? And once I started to do that, I noticed that a lot of people just turned off to me. And it's like, I try to live my best life as pro-Black doesn't mean anti-white, and I try through my actions and I try through my conversations to prove that, yes, people of color in this country do have a say. We do have a voice in things other than just hip hop and violence and gun shoot, like in drugs. Like we have things to say in astrophysics. We have things to say in philosophy and psychology, in reality game shows, in gaming, in Dungeons and Dragons, in Rubik's Cubes. Like we're all over the place. So I just try to be honest within myself and my culture whenever I speak to people. And that turns a lot of people off. But like I said, once I got out, I refused to hold back who I am just to make other people feel comfortable. Like that's not who I am. And if me being myself makes other people uncomfortable, they need to look at themselves and see why me being my authentic self makes you uncomfortable. Like I would never ask someone who's part of the LGBT community to hide who they are because it makes me feel uncomfortable. And I would never ask anyone from another culture to do the same. But I feel like as though I'm expected in everyday society to water down who I am so that way I'm more palatable to everyone else. So that's why I don't switch up game Sean and life Sean, because at the end of the day, I still have to look at myself in the mirror. And if I go on this show and I dial back who Sean is and I win, that's a disingenuous win for me. And there's no point in winning if I can't win as myself.
I respect that fully. Now, where do you go from here? Oh, actually, I'll say that towards the end.
No, you're good. We can wrap it up now. It's fine.
Wait, I do want to ask one question though about what I woke up, and I'm pretty sure you woke up to this morning in the mainframe chat.
Yeah.
What's going on from your perspective?
Right,
what was your reaction to that, and where do you see your game going based off of this?
I feel like my game is essentially over right now, for real. Because once it's been outed in an org that I'm the quote unquote prejudiced person, I'm the racist person who's making everything about race, my game is officially over after that. Once people get into the chat and they're like, it doesn't matter what your race is, let's just all be friends. if that were the case, Martin Luther King Jr. would have been shot and killed in 1968. If I'm being honest, like because of the civil rights movement and everything that was the civil rights bill was signed in 1964, right? If everybody was all love and King had accomplished his dream, why was he killed 4 years later? Like people are still upset about things, and people know how to hold on to things and harbor resentment when there's no reason to. And it's like, just because I'm pointing out a disparity or I'm pointing out an issue, it doesn't necessarily mean now you silence me by getting rid of us. That means we sit down, come to the table, and have a real conversation. Like the fact that I brought up to everybody's attention, hey, the first night there was 2 brothers who were on the bottom. Let's do something about that. Like in this game, let's make sure a Black person doesn't go home first, because we all know POCs go home first in these games. I brought that up, right? Who went home first? Okay. So then we go on to the second round, and there's 3 people on the bottom, right? Okay, that happens. Tasha wins hers, and now we got 2 brothers on the bottom. In a survival game, we picked who was safe. So we as a cast chose who the bottom 3 people were, and 2 of those people ended up being brothers anyway. So when I'm sitting here shouting from the treetops, I'm trying to change people's viewpoints of stuff, and everybody's like, oh, you're doing fine. There's nothing to change. You guys are all right. And then literally less than 24 hours later, the same thing I predicted happens. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So when I bring that to people's
so what happened? Where along the way did it become more than just, oh, Sean pointed this out? When did it become more than that?
I think it's an implicit bias that people have when it comes to these games on like who they naturally and instinctively like are drawn to, which isn't an issue. Like I'm not calling anybody bad for it. I'm saying what it is. It's an implicit bias. I have one too. Everyone has one. But the thing is, I have actively worked on altering mine, if that makes sense. Like, perfect example. Like, there's the brown eye. There's the doll test, right? That you would take a black doll and you take a white doll to children, like under the age of 4. Like, it was like 6 or 7 times out of 10, the children would prefer the white doll over the black doll. Now, that's not to say that they would never play with the black doll, but instinctually first, you will reach for that. Most people, there's a racial implicit bias test that we can all take. I can find it for you, Drew and Sandy. I'll send it to you guys personally. But it's like, if you take this test, you'll see that naturally most people are drawn towards white men and white women. And then even myself as a black male, I am instinctually programmed to be more safe and to feel more secure around white women and white men, and to listen to them as an educator, as a point of authority. It's just we're conditionalized to feel that way. Now, that's not to say that you only will listen to white people as a sense of authority and you won't listen to a POC over top of you as a sense of authority, but you're just conditionalized to see it more often. So it's like when you go into this game, it's like, oh, I'm naturally drawn to the people who look like me and who have similar cultural instincts to me. If I don't know how to talk to somebody, I've never been to Nebraska, don't know anything about that culture out there, I'm going to be more wary going forward and trying to talk to someone from Nebraska about their current life experiences. But meanwhile, if I hear somebody's from New York, New Jersey, LA, like a bigger city like I am, I'm like, okay, they might be more willing to understand where I'm coming from. And it doesn't necessarily just mean because they're a POC, I'm more drawn to them. It's just we have similar cultural experiences. You see what I'm saying? But people will see that and then not want to move forward and talk to other people. So when I bring that up to people, I'm like, hey, we all have different cultural experiences. Like, let's try and talk about it. And people clam up and they're like, they feel ashamed that their cultural experience is different. They don't know what to say from that. They will naturally drift away from you and not talk to you anymore. So it's like after that first round, who was saved was saved. Once Brandon won, you can just tell people naturally drifted to who they knew and who they related to. And then like once that's been put out, you bring it to people's attention that the implicit bias is there. They don't want to talk about it anymore. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do? I don't know what to do about it.
So if you think that people are wanting Sandbox to nominate you and Jackie, are you going to sit there and let it happen if that's the case, or are you going to go today and cause a ruckus? Because if you think Sandbox is happening and you think that there are people that are going to nominate you and Jackie, if that occurs based off of you not doing anything, then you and Jackie are going to be nominated, right? If what you said is going to occur.
I mean, at this point, I feel like trying too hard would just sink the boat faster. At this point, I want to try and mend relationships with people. But at the same time, I'm not going to go outside of my way of who I am to play this game. Like I said, I'm currently on vacation right now for my family. We've planned this for a year, right? I'm not going to drop everything I have when we're at a Brazilian steak dinner to get on a call with somebody because they think I'm being racist. Like that's not how I'm going to fly. It's like, all right. And then I sent messages to people like, hey, look, I'm currently going to dinner. I'm currently out with my family right now. Like, I know I've been away. I'm personally not used to being on calls with players. I'm used to only playing on Facebook Messenger, and we're not allowed to video or call people so the prod can view our chats at all times. So this is actually pretty new to me. Like, I'm used to only being able to communicate through people through chat. So when everybody only wants to get on calls with me and I'm like just trying to chat with them because one, I'm on vacation and I'm trying to be, respectful to my family. And two, I'm like, I'm just used to chatting with people. People think it's disingenuous of me when I'm like, hey, I'm with the family. I'm not honestly going to be really free for the next few hours, but you can chat me. They're like, well, if you don't want to talk to me, I understand. I've just been trying to get on a call with you. And I'm like, I'm being honest with you. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm telling you what's going on. Why can't you listen to the words that I'm saying? There's no subtext. There's nothing underneath of what I'm saying. I'm telling you blatantly how I feel, and you're reading it as something else. There's nothing I can do at that point. There really isn't. So I'm just like, I can try to talk to people. I can tell them what's up, but they're going to believe what they want to believe at the end of the day. But I'm like, I have no reason to lie to people in this format, not necessarily this game per se, but just the whole org community is constantly paranoid of everyone lying, backstabbing, and betraying anybody. That when someone is genuinely honest and bluntly straightforward, they don't know how to handle it. So, I can try and talk to people, but that's the best I'm going to do. I'm not going to make an obvious thing in the main chat. I'm not even going to dignify those with response. If you want to talk to me, come talk to me. That's how I feel.
All right, Sean, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you are on vacation, but as somebody who's hosted over half of my life, and especially in Gamers Paradise, where every level has the potential to be different, things change on a dime. What feels like it's one way right now, I'm telling you, 3 hours is all it takes for something to be completely different. So, although from your perspective, it might feel and might seem like doom and gloom, anything can happen. Remember that. Keep that in the front and or the back of your memory. Anything can happen. This game is ever changing. It's literally paradise, just like a tide, in and out, over and over. All right, buddy?
Yeah, but wait, hold on. Speaking of the tide, look at that. There's a tide for you there.
Fucking show. Okay, I get it. Why play Gamers Paradise when you're in paradise?
You feel me? Like, people want me to stop doing this so I can get on a call with them. I'm like, I'm sitting here living my best life, trying to enjoy life. And y'all like, can you get on a call with me? I heard there's an all-POC alliance. You got to do something about that. And I'm like, what? Okay, I'll address that next week.
All right. Well, you're Rocky or Zach. Do y'all have any questions? I'm sorry, I feel rude, but also I don't want to keep you forever.
Oh, I just had to take some medicine. I'm definitely down to answer any other questions now. I'm good. Cricket.
I know
Cricket.
they're probably both at work and just we're here to. Oh, Zach left. Is Rocky? Do you have a question?
Rocky.
My
I
bad.
definitely know he's at work.
I'm at
Oh,
work and motherfuckers get on my motherfucking nerves.
I'm like,
get on my
yo, I'm
motherfucking
like,
nerves.
Rocky, you better ask me a question. I'm only playing this because you asked, brother. And that's the other thing. I'm gonna say this right here, right now in my confession. I knew. I'm gonna take my glasses off for this. I knew that if me and Jackie played on any game other than a blood versus water, we'd be the first fucking targets. I knew it would. And everybody's like, no, you guys should be fine. You'll be good. That's all I got to say on that. But I'm like, no, I'm gonna play an honest game.
I have been away for a day. It was basically since the game has started. So like I'm really catching that from a week worth of things. I don't really have no questions now. Like I was in and out of this, and I am just like catching up on the tea and what's happening. What I can state is from the knowledge that I know, let's not say, even though Phyllis was a POC and she was the first person to go, I don't think that was a reason at all. That's why she went. So I don't want to put that out there.
That's okay. let me reiterate that I wasn't saying the only reason she went home was that she was POC. Let me reiterate.
No, but it's unfortunate that she was a POC and it happened. And what I don't think people understand is as being a POC, especially a Black person, like we look out for things like that on a regular, like it's just, that's like a regular thing for us to be cast off first in anything. Right. So I get where you're coming from.
Okay. Like, let me just put this out here into the world. I'm not sure if everybody knows this. Like and I'm speaking from my personal lived experience from a 68% Black city. When I walk into a room, classroom, doctor's office, it doesn't matter where I am. I instinctually look for the first Black people in the room. Like I look for them. If I see them, I head nod just to show like, hey, I see you, you see me. I acknowledge your existence, because for so long we have had to just walk down the street and literally move out of the way for people and not be acknowledged. So it's just a common courtesy of, at least from my experience, that when Black people see each other in orgs, on the street, in supermarkets, wherever, we would just acknowledge each other. Okay, like it's not necessarily. So it's like when we read a room and we look to see who all the POCs are, and then in the first one out the room is a POC, we just like, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, just you hate to see it happen, you know? That's all.
You do.
That's all. That's all.
No,
and then
I fully understand, bro. I get it.
And then like,
I guess if I had to ask any question, like I don't know. I think Sandy already asked where you go from here. So I guess it's just like I don't have a question. I just got a statement. Just like keep it going, man. Like Sandy said, this game would change. It's forever change. Hey, how you doing?
Thank you.
No problem. It forever changes. And I one land that is like, it doesn't matter if it's Big Brother, it doesn't matter if it's Survivor. Our games are very, very, very fluid. They change like there's pop up a dime, so you never know what's gonna happen. So yeah, keep it moving, man. And don't let like a situation like this make you not like, I don't want to say not want to play, because I know you still gonna go hard as ever, but don't let it like put a damper on your experience.
Don't let it. I mean, obviously, accept it. You obviously are. It is what it is. It's stirring up some sort of emotion. Shine some light on that and keep it moving. Because I promise you, this game will change. Not saying you and Jackie both are gonna be here for that change, but it will change. And this, I don't know if I should even mention this, but last season in iSurvivor. And it's unfortunate that this is just like the climate environment we live in, that this narrative takes place on reality TV. So we'd be foolish to think it wouldn't be a microcosmed example here, right? But last season, there definitely was a storyline of like, oh, POC alliance versus the whites. What do we do?
Right.
But and it had its moment. Everybody felt that moment, but it didn't damper the season. It didn't take over the narratives and the storylines of the game. Taisha, a Black woman, ended up winning the season, and as a production team, we look back on the season and we love it. We're so proud of it. It brings us joy thinking about just how the experience played out and all the fun that the people had in it. So there's still, that there's potential for that. Of course, it could be the total opposite. This could be a shit show, but keep the faith. I'm keeping the faith. You keep the faith.
Yes. I want to say this to production. You guys have been doing an awesome job. I am not mad at any of the people you guys have picked. I understand that, like, it's just people's viewpoints of things, and we need to sit down and have a conversation on things. I'm not taking any of this personally. I just want to make sure that, like, that's known to everybody else and, like, people watching, and you guys, like, there's no bad blood at all for this. And I'm like, I'm good with it. Okay.
And we'll be here along the way for you and Jackie and for everybody else. White, Black, any and every in between.
Wait, I do got a question, I guess, real quick. Is there a narrative going around that you and Jackie are together, or like, I don't believe, honestly,
oh my God, yes and no. Like, apparently it's going behind the scenes, but when I ask people to their face, they're like, "Oh, I don't care. You and Jackie are married." I'm like, then why am I hearing that people want to put us up together if y'all don't care we're married? I ask you, do you care that we're married? They're like, no, it shouldn't affect your game. I'm like, okay.
So you're admitting. So are you admitting to people that yes, this is true?
That we're married, yeah, but not that we're a pair working together in the game. Like,
I mean, okay, so okay, because I know both of you for interviewing you guys, like, and know what you guys stated. So I know that for you, technically, you don't have to work with Jackie.
Nope.
But
she's a completely different player than I am. Like,
but do you look at that as an opportunity to be like, well, instead of like targeting us, like, if y'all think that we are a pair, then why not just use us as a pair?
Yes, that's what I've been saying to everyone who has confirmed that we're married. And everybody is like, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, so to the 6 people I haven't confirmed my marriage to, or 6 or 7 who I haven't confirmed my marriage to, have yet to even ask me any serious personal questions. So I'm like, if y'all have an issue with me being married, you haven't even voiced it to me. You haven't even come and asked me if you could work with me. So why is it that me being married to her is an issue for you? I would blatantly say that to somebody's face. I have no problem doing that because I'm here to play a game. Why am I going to tiptoe around the subject? I can sit here and talk back. I can throw facts. What's up? I'll drop a name in a conversation. Why not? You think I'm scared if somebody comes to me and says my name? No. This is Zoom, baby. What's up? I'll gladly talk to you. I'll say your name right now to your face. Yes, I am voting you. Why does it matter?
Okay, so, that was my only real question.
Continues to smoke. Shit.
I'm good. Rox, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sean, you good? You got anything else that maybe we haven't touched on that you want to just throw out there?
Just gonna leave it with what I always say: each one teach one. That's all I got.
Perfect. I love that. Love that. All right, so let me stop this stream.